So again, this is Tim Turzin here with LKCS, and thank you for attending the webinar today on website accessibility. For those of you who don't know LKCS or don't know much about us, just a little bit of background on us. We are a full-service marketing company, and we've been in business since 1961. We've been developing and maintaining websites since the late 90s. And we specifically, market and work with the financial industry. So banks or credit unions are definitely what we focus on. We work with them, all day, every day, and we have several hundred clients nationwide that we do work with in some capacity. So the slide here is just showing all the other services that we can handle for you. So definitely, if you're looking for something, we most likely have a product or service for you. But just wanted you to know that we've been around for quite a while and definitely dealing with the financial industry for most of that time. So what is website accessibility? All that means is that people with disabilities can use the web, all right? So basically, we need to make sure that all users can perceive, understand, navigate, interact with, and contribute to the web. Okay, so what we have to do as a financial institution is make sure that our websites provide equal access and equal opportunity to those people with different disabilities. This is a good thing. Okay, so it's good to make sure that your website is, meeting all of these web accessibility needs. But bad lawyers have made this, a touchy subject and a bad thing. So we'll get into all this and why we think it's a good thing, and a little bit on the lawyers a little bit later as well. So web accessibility sounds pretty easy. It doesn't seem too difficult until you realize, how people with disabilities use the website. So you can see that, some people might need keyboard compatibility, potentially if they aren't able to use their hands. They need to have video captions. If their hearing's missing, they need to have large links, buttons, and controls. If their eyesight might not be there, and then voice recognition for those that don't have any functionality and can use a voice simulator for themselves. So we have to do all these things and make sure they all work for these types of people. The accessibility actually improves usability of the website, and we need to make sure and know that not all of the users that are going to be on our website are equally tech savvy or financial literate. And what we mean by that is, we need to make sure that there's clear notifications and feedback. So as you can kind of see from that screenshot, if somebody's filling out a form, we don't want it saying, error 123 invalid data. We want to make sure that we're specifically telling somebody, hey, you missed the state field, the zip code, whatever it might be that's missing from something like that. We need to make sure that our colors have good contrast. So we don't want to have light text on a light colored background, making it very difficult to read with somebody with contrast issues. We need to have a clear layout and design, meaning that we need to make sure that there's sections, I guess, more or less. It can still be designed in a way that you don't necessarily see the sections, but it can't just be all thrown in and colors everywhere and stuff like that, making it more difficult to read. And then the content has to be understandable. So we want to try to stay away from the financial jargon that we're all used to and using. We need to make sure that we're spelling that out in clear language so people can actually understand, as they may not know the tech terms with the financial side. So these threatened lawsuits, it just seems that the financial institutions are the most recent targets. This has been going on for quite a while, but more or less the threats are going to begin with a demand letter claiming to have identified access barriers on the website. So basically they're going to seek a settlement agreement, which includes an award of attorney fees and costs of the plaintiffs, and a website accessibility compliance plan as part of it. So Some of you might have already seen this, some of you might not have seen it, and hoping that you don't see it, but we want to make sure that you're ready no matter what kind of comes your way. So basically, we see a lot of them starting with this threat and those specific demands. But we say to reduce your litigation risk, you want to be proactive. All right, don't climb in a shell and hope it doesn't happen to you, because more than likely it is going to happen to you. It just seems they're going, in states by waves. But you want to take action to address that web accessibility now. Okay, don't wait, address it. So, LKCS can help. There's other companies out there, but you want to get in front of this and try to get your website as up to date as possible sooner rather than later. And we always say that you should implement an ADA website accessibility policy immediately. So if you don't have one, we strongly urge you to go do this. And basically what it's going to do is affirm your commitment to that compliance. Okay, it's letting everybody know that you're committed to doing this and you're there to help them. It provides for training of appropriate personnel. So, hey, we're going to teach, the people making changes to, the website, what it means to be ADA accessible and make things right. It provides for management oversight, so a way for people to reach out to management so they can address that issue, and provides for ongoing accessibility monitoring and auditing. Okay. LKCS does have some sample rough draft policies, both for sites that are not meeting the guidelines and those sites that already are. So if you need something like that, feel free to reach out to me at the end. My email and phone number will be on the screen at the end, and I can share those with you so you can have a base. You don't have to reinvent the wheel for anything. As far as compliance, the ADA does not directly address website accessibility and does not include any technical standard for determining compliance. Okay, so a lot of people say ADA compliance, and you'll hear it a lot, and we say it because that's what people know it as, but truly there isn't anything for compliance on this. It's a set of guidelines that's been around since the late 90s, and there's different rulings on them, and we'll get into all that as we go. And many people believe that the ADA's requirements are not limited to physical places, so would also apply to websites. So that's basically saying, not just a physical place, but an online location would be subject to that as well. And again, we have different rulings on this, so we don't know exactly which way it's going to go, depending on what court you go to. As we said, it's held up in some, but not all. And the Department of Justice actually announced late December 17 that they are not going to address this issue. Okay, so they were actually supposed to come up with a firm compliance ruling on this, and unfortunately they did not do that, and they're just going to continue to let it be the Wild West for a little bit until they decide what they want to do. And that timeline has not been confirmed or brought back up since. But practical standards for website accessibility do exist. Okay, so we will go over those. The courts, however, disagree on different things. So I've got a couple rulings up, and we'll just briefly touch on each of these. In one, Robles versus Domino's Pizza in March of 2017, the court dismissed the case because the Department of Justice has not offered meaningful guidance on website accessibility. So there's one case that it did get thrown out. And Gorky versus Hobby Lobby, in June of 17, the court refused to dismiss and found that Department of Justice has maintained as far back as 1996 that websites must be accessible. So as you see, those two contradict each other. So which ruling are you going to get? You don't really know. It's a gamble. And then a third one, and there's been several, but a number of circuit courts have found that version 2.0 of the W3C's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, the WCAG 2.0, is the standard that businesses must meet for website accessibility. So that is the gold standard, so to speak, for what you're looking for is the WCAG 2.0 guidelines, and we'll discuss those different levels in a little bit. One of the more recent decisions is Carroll versus Northwest Federal Credit Union in January of 2018, and this was a Virginia Federal District Court threw this out. Okay, the judge ruled that websites are not public places of accommodation, and two, that the plaintiff had no standing in the case because they weren't eligible to join that credit union. Okay, this decision again conflicts with rulings in other circuit courts. It's been said that it's a lower court decision. The case could be brought again to a higher court. We've seen more of these thrown out for the second reason of the plaintiff having no standing for the credit unions because they are not eligible. We've seen several of those in the last few months. However, I just saw something about a week ago that says these are about to come back around, and the plaintiff is now going to say it's true that they are not eligible to join, but with the shared branching network, that is what's causing their issue. So they can join somebody else that has a shared branching network that connects to that, and then they can't do everything they should be able to through the shared branching network. So again, it's something that you just really don't want to be in because these lawyers are going to find a way around whatever it is that comes up and try to nail you. So we want to make sure that we're meeting the guidelines as best as we can to avoid these types of lawsuits. Okay, so the most important case that we have found to date was Gill versus the Winn-Dixie stores in June of 2017. This was the first federal court order for website accessibility violation of the ADA by a place of public accommodation, basically not a government agency. It cites the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, the WCAG 2.0 that I've talked about, as the standard for website accessibility. There is still no law, but the judge's ruling in this case has set an important precedent. So again, this judge's ruling at the federal level really brings some weight with it. So a lot of lower court judges are going to be looking to this to kind of determine how they might rule in the future. And obviously, there's still a lot of federal courts nationwide that have pending lawsuits on the same matter. So we're kind of waiting to see some more of those as they come out. But that judge in that case ruled a few things, and we feel that all of these are very important points to talk about in the financial world. So in addition to paying all the attorney fees and making their site accessible, the Winn-Dixie Company was ordered to set deadlines for the following items. They had to adopt a website accessibility policy that ensures that its website conforms to the WCAG criteria. So again, what I talked about earlier, we want to make sure you have that policy. It's something to start looking at. Again, I have example policies that you can reach out and ask for. I will share them with you to help out, but it's something that we feel strongly that you should get put in place as soon as possible. You want to publish a statement of the website accessibility policy on the website, along with the means of submitting accessibility issues and questions. So people should be able to see that you're working towards this goal, you're doing your best to meet all this stuff, but if you find anything that might be difficult, please submit that here. We will get it fixed as soon as possible type of deal. They're requiring that any third-party vendors who participate on the website be fully accessible to disabled by conforming with the WCAG 2.0 criteria. This is a big one. Okay, so it's not only saying that your website needs to meet these guidelines, but your third-party vendors' pieces of your website. So things like your online banking, maybe your e-statements, stuff like that, all has to fully conform to the WCAG 2.0. So that's a big thing when you're looking into your third-party vendors to ask for. Not all of them do that. Some of them are developing, some of them are just hoping it goes away. But definitely, if those contracts are coming up for you guys, it's something we feel strongly that you need to look into and make sure that you're covering yourselves on that front. You also have to provide mandatory web accessibility training to all employees who develop or publish web content. So you want to make sure that the people working on your website are actually trained in the WCAG 2.0 guidelines, so they're making the correct changes, so these things don't get out of whack again once they're set. And then they want to conduct automated web accessibility tests to identify accessibility issues at least quarterly. Now, we agree that you should have something in place that is testing the site from time to time. Quarterly, this is a very big corporation, so we feel that the quarterly is probably good for them. They probably have, dozens, if not hundreds of employees that actually work on their website. For the financial world, we feel a biannual or every 6 months, twice a year, scan option, works a lot better. You only have, 1, 2, 3 people. It's typically not too many people making changes to the website. Obviously, we have packages that do, quarterly and even monthly if needed. But many of our clients are going with that biannual scan and fix option, which takes care of a lot of things, giving you reports every 6 months. And we feel that's, a good step in the right direction. Okay, so again, think of all these things when implementing your accessibility policy. So the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0, it was developed by the World Wide Web Consortium, the W3C, which is basically the ruling body on web. They're not new, okay? The current version of these guidelines have been adopted in December of 2008. Okay, that is a long time for anything web to hold up. So the guidelines actually are organized into 3 levels of conformance. So level A is the most basic web accessibility features. Okay, very, very basic stuff in level A. Level 2A deals with the biggest and most common barriers for disabled users. And then level 3A is the highest and most complex level of web accessibility. Okay, between all those 3 levels, we feel that level A and AA should be met. You guys need to meet the level A and AA criteria across the board. The level 3A items are meant primarily for sites that serve the disabled community. So you do not have to conform to level AAA items, but the level A and AA, yes, definitely you do. If you were to make your site AAA accessible, basically your normal users wouldn't be able to use the website anymore. So we don't want to go that far. So the A and AA is where we kind of want to sit. So meeting those WCAG 2.0 level A and AA should be your standards. That's your objective. That's where you want to be. Anybody that's currently in a website redesign or getting a website redesign or thinking of one, again, make sure that the person building your site can do these things and provide documentation. Okay, we have seen some people say that, yep, we're doing it. The site goes live. It's actually not done. They never provided any documentation. To the financial institution, and they kind of got burned and had to go back and redo a whole bunch of stuff. So make sure that you're actually getting the reporting that shows that they are, making the site accessible. So the principles in the WCAG 2.0 guidelines is basically that the website will be expected to meet that criteria in 4 key principles. Okay, we want to make sure that the website is perceivable. Okay, so it's designed to make sure that the information is easily perceived. Some of the users, again, may have difficulties with one or more of their senses, making them rely on assistive technology to browse. And the 3 main senses that the guidelines can help with are sight, hearing, and touch. Okay, so we want to provide text alternatives for non-text content. Image alt tags. So if it's an image, we can put some alt tags with that image. So if somebody can't see the image, the screen reader can say, hey, this is an image of X, to kind of help them out a little bit. Providing captions and other alternatives for multimedia, video transcripts. YouTube and Vimeo do these automatically for free. So we always say if you're going to be doing video type stuff on your website, get a YouTube channel, get a Vimeo channel, upload the videos there. It automatically gets the captioning done, and then you can link to it to the website, and it makes it nice and easy without having to do a bunch of work on your end. and then create content that can be presented in different ways, including by assistive technologies without losing meaning. So the HTML tags to identify reading sequence. Now this is a big one. A lot of people will code a website and they'll start at one spot, and then they'll jump to another spot, and they'll jump somewhere else, and the code becomes almost a rat's nest of code. So the screen readers are just jumping everywhere, trying to figure out what's what. So these HTML tags make sure that it's reading basically top to bottom, in the sections as it should to make sense. And then you want to make it easier for users to see and hear content. So again, the use of color, contrast ratios, text links that make sense when read out of context. So no longer do you just have a link like that says click here. Okay, it needs to be something like click here for that auto loan application or whatever it might be. The website needs to be operable. Okay, so the principle of a website as being operable is about the actions people take. So the point and click type stuff that we're used to with our mouse, that's the type of things. Is it easy to navigate and move around? Okay, the interface components and that navigation can be created in a way that everyone, no matter what, can operate. You don't want to limit user input to a mouse or pointer. So you want to have multiple options or multiple ways that people can get to things. And then some users may not have or may have motor difficulties, so it's hard for their keyboard or hard for their mouse, so they have to use their keyboard to navigate. Or sight impairments, they prefer that keyboard rather than the mouse because it's just easier. Okay. So we want to make all functionality available on the keyboard. So again, HTML tags, correct tab order. So we want to make sure things are in order as it should be. We want to make sure that users have enough time to read and use content. So we want to minimize timing or give users control of that timing. So things like our banner ads that rotate on our homepage, we need a way for the user to be able to pause those or slow them down or something like that so they can actually read them or see them or do whatever fast enough. Because a lot of times it takes them a little bit longer than the normal person to see that information and realize what it's trying to tell you. We don't want to use content that can cause seizures. So we don't want to have a bunch of automatic scrolling text. Again, ability to pause or control speed of banners is huge. So we don't want things coming in and flying in and doing all this crazy stuff that might cause issues for some people. And we want to help users navigate and find content. So that sitemap that's accessible from every page is a big key. Okay, so it doesn't mean you have to put a sitemap in the footer, but you can have a simple search function. You can have a simple button somewhere that says, sitemap that they can get to. So makes it easy for them to find everywhere that they want to go. We need to make sure the website is understandable. A perceivable and operable website mean nothing if the user can't understand it. So the website has to use clear language and explain complex subjects. So again, we want to stay away from the jargon. We know what we're talking about in the financial world. Not everybody does. And we want to make sure that the website functions in a way that the users understand by avoiding unusual, unexpected, or inconsistent user interfaces or navigation schemes. So again, text needs to be readable and understandable. No jargon, no acronyms. We want to make sure that the text can be adjustable size to make it easier for some to read. All that type of stuff is going to come into play. We want to make the content appear and operate predictable ways. So the navigation needs to be consistent on every single page. We don't want to have the top navigation on the home page and then a side navigation on the inside pages or stuff like that. We want to make sure that the navigation structure stays the same on every single page so they get used to it and can use it. We want to help users avoid and correct mistakes. So form field labels, user-friendly error messages, confirmation of form submission, all that stuff that I talked about a little bit earlier. We want to make sure that we're very clear if there's an issue, tell them in plain language what the issue is so they don't have to go searching for it. We need to help them find that and make it easy to understand what they have to do to complete whatever it is. And then we need to make sure it's robust. A robust website is one that different technologies like web browsers and screen readers rely on. Okay. The website must meet recognized standards, such as using clean HTML and CSS code. So it needs to use current style coding, not stuff from the 80s or 90s when websites just came about. It needs to be the most up-to-date stuff we can to help as best as it can. And that helps minimize the risk of visitors using technology that cannot correctly process your website. Okay, so if we're giving the most up-to-date technology on our website, it's going to help them use their technologies that they have to use that website. So we want to maximize compatibility with current and future user tools. Again, proper coding, standard HTML. That's the biggest thing. When you're evaluating your website, okay, one, just about everybody out there, you need a tool to scan your website. No person is going to be able to sit through and scan every single page manually of your website without costing, an arm and a leg to do so. But it's really not as easy as, okay, I got a tool that's scanned and great, because many of these guidelines need to be verified manually. And I will get into that as I show some screenshots of what our reporting does. But one example is a computer cannot determine if a text description adequately describes an image. So basically the computer sees that there's an image, it sees that there's an alt tag, it can read the alt tag, but it doesn't know if it matches. So if it's a picture of a person sitting in a car and an alt tag says something about home loans, it doesn't match, but the computer doesn't know that. So somebody has to manually verify that. Some of these tools are free to use. Some of our suggestions would be the wave.webabe.org tool. So it is a pretty simple tool. This seems to be what all of the law firms that are suing are using. The free version, you can scan one page at a time. There is a paid version that you can get that you can do a little bit more and check the site out all at once. And then another one is the A-Checker, which again is free. You can scan a page at a time, and they're not bad, right? They do their job, but they are free, so there are limitations there. There's a lot that are not free, okay? There are several out there that are subscription-based tools that provide additional benefits. This is what we would actually recommend going with. You can check out the free stuff just to get an idea, but they make it hard to use. So the paid subscriptions are what we would recommend. Basically, it scans the full site. Okay, scans everything in one shot. It gives you the reporting that you need to verify those scans have been done. It has automated scans and email alerts, so we can do things on automation and alert you of things that are going on. But some are very, very expensive. Okay, so there's some out there that are well priced. There's some that are super expensive. From what we've seen, the super expensive ones aren't doing anything above and beyond that they can justify their cost. So be careful when you're getting into those. Obviously, you can talk to me after. I can tell you about our service and what it costs, so you can go out and compare to what else you can find out there. So this is a scan overview from our system, okay? So first, the scan overview is telling me that we have found 13,524 accessibility issues, which affect 59 pages, okay? This is actually a really low number. For those of you who have not seen a report before or haven't gone through this, this is relatively low, okay? We're seeing that it's affecting 59 pages, so one item is 59 potentially issues. So they go down fairly quick. We see sites in the hundreds of thousands, 200s of thousands. I mean, it gets up there. So don't be scared if you see a very large number. It's pretty common to have a couple 100,000 issues if you haven't done anything before. Okay, we break it down into the severity and conformance. So we have errors, which are the little bugs at the top. We have warnings, which are the little bell in the middle, and we have review items, which are the little eyeball icon at the bottom. So you can see the actual errors, things the system knows 100% is a problem that we need to fix. We can see that there's 526 of them on the single A and 55 of them on the double A guidelines. Very few warnings, only 6 on the A side, but the majority of everything, 11,046 items for the single A and 1,891 items for the double A, need to be manually reviewed. So again, we have to have somebody manually look at the issue and verify if it actually meets the guidelines or not. If it doesn't, we can fix it. If it already meets, we can tell the system, yes, we verified this manually, it is good. Okay. The reports will also show more information. So it'll tell you where or what the item might be and what the classification is. So if it's an issue, a warning, or an error, it'll tell you how many pages it's affecting and a little bit of information of what that problem is. Our online version, if you wanted to make the fixes for yourself, you can actually get more information. So you can click on it. It'll actually give you examples of code. It'll show you different pieces. It'll show you an accessibility help center that you can actually click on, and it'll actually give you a easy to read, understand definition of what the problem is so you can fix it. And again, code examples are also provided in the online version. So if you have somebody that's very sufficient with code and understands these things very well, you can do it yourself. Not everybody chooses to do it this way. So fixing those accessibility issues is another thing. Your web developer is likely going to need to do some research. Okay, it takes longer to understand a lot of the requirements than actually to fix them. Okay, you have to understand what's going on before you can actually fix it, because you don't want to fix it the wrong way. Most of the items are very small and relatively easy to fix, but again, there are a lot of them. From that example, there was over 11,000 of the 13,000 problems were just manual verifications. So it takes time to go through each one of those. Obviously, there are some larger issues that can take some significant time to correct, but pretty often those are few and far between. There are some major issues, but the majority is the small, easy to fix type stuff. And again, you may need to have to change the way you're doing some things, such as how to include videos and multimedia content. Okay. Should you fix your site? That's what we get a lot, and there's a lot of different ways to look at that. But typically what we go through with our clients is a step-by-step kind of where are you at type of thing to determine what's the best scenario for you. Okay, so from our experience, the typical institution website takes between 30 and 50 hours to fix. So take 30 to 50 hours times whatever your web person charges to look at things. And if they're not familiar, you can add time on top of that, because then they have to learn. Okay, so that'll give you a rough idea of a rough cost of a one-time type fix. But money talks. So this is where we usually kind of talk to our clients. And first, is your site due for a redesign? Is it already old? Is it outdated? Does it need to be redesigned anyways? If the answer is yes, we can take that, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, whatever it's going to be to fix the current website, and put that money towards a brand new website that will be accessible from the get-go. Okay. Another thing is the site already mobile responsive or mobile friendly. If it isn't, to make the current site mobile friendly is another $3,000 to $4,000. So again, that's free money if we just go with a new website redesign. And then what many people are finding is they want the content management systems and the easy to use tools to manage and update the site as they see fit, as often as they want. Okay, so instead of having a webmaster or a company making all of your changes, all of your updates, they want to do that themselves. So what are you paying for all of that work? Potentially you can take that money, you can do the stuff yourself and save a little bit there. So we kind of do a little equation with those three questions and decide what the best case scenario for you is. And And most of the time, if you're looking at any of these things, it's typically much easier to do a redesign and try to make the current site fit everything. The money is just not there, right? So maintaining website accessibility. Okay, this is not a one and done project. This is something that is an ongoing process that you need to make sure that you're looking at all the time. So again, the content management systems of today make it very easy for the end user, the people at the financial institution, to update, add, and edit content on the fly really fast, right? But the websites are being updated by people that are not aware of the accessibility requirements. We need to make sure our team is trained and knows what they're doing and why they're doing it, and making sure they're meeting guidelines. All right. Your website should be audited on a regular basis, either by an experienced web development agency or a knowledgeable internal site owner. This is where the subscription tools make sense. Okay, so I told you earlier the subscription tools, yes, they cost a little bit of money, but again, you want that ongoing checks being done. You want the ongoing fixes being done. You want the ongoing reporting, and unfortunately, that costs a little bit of money. Okay, but it is something that we feel is well worth the cost spent. But a huge thing is keep the documentation. A lot of people will get it. They will send the documentation and they'll get it and they'll lose it. But you don't want to do that. You always want to have that documentation ready. It's going to be helpful if you're ever threatened with a lawsuit, because you can easily produce documents whatever 6 months or quarterly or whenever you decide to do those. Here's my documents for the last 2 years. Here they all are, or whatever it might be. And then the documentation and your policies together will be proof that you have taken the necessary steps to make the site accessible. And that's what a lot of the lawyers are looking for, that you don't have any of this proof, so it's easy to target you. If you have ways to fight them, they typically stay away because they just want an easy payday. Okay, but know this, the web standards are going to change. So I remember I told you earlier the WCAG level 2.0 guidelines came out in 2008. And again, that is ancient when it comes to web technology. So the standards were written really, really well to be able to hold up against the test of time in the web world. The WCAG actually has a level 2.1 that's currently in draft status. I believe at the end of this month, I want to say it's May 22nd or 23rd, is when they're shutting down. It is out there. You can go find the WCAG 2.1 guidelines right now. But you can actually reach out and request potential changes or different things like that. That is shutting down towards the end of this month. They are hoping to push these live sometime in June, if not earlier. Okay, so very, very quickly, within the next month or so, there's going to be a brand new level of standards out there to conform to. So what's changing is most of the stuff is the same. Okay, not everything's changing. It's not a whole new group of requirements or anything, but they are adding things. So requirements for mobile devices to make touch screen functions more compatible with assistive technology. So if you think about this, in 2008, we didn't have our phones glued to us like we do today. Okay, 2008 we were probably, most of us still using flip phones and the Nokia brick phones. So a lot of technology has changed on the mobile side. So we need to make sure that we're working on that type of stuff. Current standards are requiring that web content be resized up to 200% without losing any functionality. The new standards are expected to raise that level to 400%. So it's going to double it. And that, again, is based off of mobile technology. So we need to blow it up even bigger on smaller screens, right? And they are going to change the contrast level requirements for images or text necessary for navigation. Okay, so already we have a lot of clients that this is challenging for in the current guidelines, and it's going to get harder. So a lot of people want to use, these are our brand colors. We have to use our brand colors for certain elements. And unfortunately, sometimes your brand colors don't meet the color contrast ratios, no matter what type of text you put on it. So it makes it a little bit difficult, but there are ways to kind of work around it with text size and things like that. But you do have to think about it when you're building a site or when potentially you need to make those tweaks, okay? So those are some of the things that are changing, but again, it should roll out in the next month or so. So there'll be another wave of things to learn for people. LKCS does have the ability to identify, resolve, and monitor the site for compliance issues related to this. We have 3 different levels of service available. We have a one-time scan and fix option. We have a biannual scan and fix option. We have a quarterly scan and fix option, and we can even do monthly. Okay, we do not have anybody doing a monthly subscription, but we have an option if somebody absolutely needs it. Okay, but we have multiple levels. Again, we have those 3 different levels of those services. So we have a reporting only service, which will measure how well your site meets the WCAG 2.1 accessibility guidelines. It'll show you how many pages have potential accessibility issues and what those issues are. It does not give you all of the information you need to actually fix any accessibility issues. It's solely designed to give you a baseline of where the site stands. Okay, so the reporting only option is fairly cheap, but it's just there, like I said, as a baseline. You're not going to be able to do anything with it other than have a report showing you all the issues. The online access subscription. It provides web-based access to our web governance solution. So where I was saying if you have the web version, you can go on and click on things and get code examples and clear language and definitions and all that type of stuff. That's what the online access does. It's going to identify which pages are affected, what elements on the page are having the problems, and review the specific guideline for each item along with examples of everything that you need. To let you know what code might match, what might not match, what's going to work, what's not going to work. And it's designed for web developers to go through and make changes to the site as they review the accessibility requirements. So again, a lot of this is web coding and all that type of stuff. So if you're not familiar with HTML and all those other things, it'll probably be very difficult for you to do by yourself. Okay, so your web programmer, whoever built your website, should be able to understand it and work with you with just that if that's the route you want to go. And we also have a full service option where basically we do everything. Okay, we can scan the site, we can make the changes needed to meet all of the guidelines, and we provide reporting before and after the changes are made. Okay, so we'll provide you a report. Here's where all the problems are. We'll provide another report, a week or 2 later saying everything's fixed, and that happens every, 6 months, quarter, whatever it is that you choose to get those fixes made. Okay. Any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns on everything I went over? Go ahead and type them into the questions toolbar, and I will answer them for you now. I will stay on the line for another 15 minutes or so. I just got a question in that most web browsers allow users to adjust the font size. Do we need to also add a feature within the website to make the text adjustable? The correct answer of this is no. You do not need to have something on the website to make the text adjustable. However, it's something that's not required, but leaned heavily towards. Now, this may be something in the new 2.1 draft that is a requirement. We do put the font increase options on all of our websites. You can easily hide them somewhere. They don't have to be prominent. You can put them in the header, footer, out of the way. We feel that you do want them out there, but technically, no, they are not 100% required or needed.